All right, 131, folks. Here on Unit 4, we need to talk about something a little bit different. We've already actually gotten past this point, but I want to go ahead and reach back and pull up this document anyway because we're looking at transitions and power. With the presidents, we move from Washington, who's going to serve for 8 years. We move on to Adams, and then we move on to Jefferson. The transition between Adams and Washington is not huge. Adams has several of the ideals that Washington did. He has several of the founding fathers still working for him. He's still pretty much aligned with the same policies as far as Washington is concerned. What the huge difference be here is when we switch from Adams to Jefferson. When we switch from Adams to Jefferson, we're looking at a peaceful transition of power. And this peaceful transition of power is between two parties, two political parties at this particular point. And the thing is they have opposing ideologies. Jefferson is a anti-federalist. He's a states' rights person. He thinks that certain parts of the Constitution are a bit overreaching. Hamilton is still on the agenda. Hamilton's going to be an opponent of Jefferson, and we know that Hamilton is a huge federalist. He thinks that the federal government, the national government, needs to have more authority on certain aspects and certain powers along the point. And this transition to Jefferson as far as president, he's going to make some changes. This is important, and why it's important is this: we're going to talk about how we interpret the Constitution. So what I want you to do is I want you to look back at this. The Virginia Declaration of Rights was not written by Thomas Jefferson. It's actually written by George Mason, but it's part of the foundation of our Declaration of Rights, okay, our national Declaration of Independence, but also it's part of the foundation excuse me, not only of the Constitution, but of the Bill of Rights, because it's going to be Jefferson is one of those people who's really pushing for the Bill of Rights to be added to the Constitution. And so you're going to see a lot of these rights delineated here, laid out in the Virginia Declaration of Rights. And so I think it's pretty interesting. What you need to pay attention to is what rights you see that George Mason has gone through and said, hey, this is what's important. This is what I want you to look at. This is what we think is right. And you have to realize that this is a reactionary document. It's reactionary in the fact that they are still dealing, when this is written, they're still dealing with the remnants of an authoritarian king. They're still dealing with an authoritarian government at this particular point that is restricting their movement, that's restricting their policies, it's restricting their economics, even to the point of restricting weaponry and rights of speech and religion. And so what he's trying to do is map a few things out on what he thinks are really important. So I want you to take a look at this and see. It's going to be really important with what's happening now with Jefferson, because when Jefferson takes office, he is going to say, okay, well, let's fix this. Okay, let's fix this. Let's go ahead and set a few things up. Let's go ahead and pull back on this national government. Let's pull back on this debt we're creating. Let's pull back on this huge standing army they're trying to create. Let's restrict the power of the federal government to give rights back to the states. And this is going to tell a tale at this particular point, especially when we go to make a transition, because we're going to be looking pretty quickly at the War of 1812. And one of the problems we're going to have with the War of 1812 is running into it, the run up to it. We're not prepared for war. Okay, we're not prepared for war. And part of that is the setup of this Declaration of Rights from Virginia. What it is that they pointed out was important, what's not important. So take a look and see. Compare this to the Declaration of Independence. Compare this to the Constitution. See what you think, and see if and what got changed, in the actual Constitution along the way. Did we miss some important things in the transition from this document? Because to me, this is really the source of the Constitution. This is really the source of what becomes the Bill of Rights. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn you loose and take a look at this.